This is Found with Trish and Sherri, and I'm Sherri.
I'm Trish.
And tonight we have a special guest, Vicki. Vicki,
Hi,
welcome to the
Vicki.
show.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I can't wait to hear your story.
Well,
So, Vicki, walk us back to your childhood. What are your first memories in childhood and about learning about being adopted?
okay. As far back as I can remember, I always knew. I don't know that it was ever really a secret. My first memories were really of my adoptive mother being sick. She actually passed when I was 2.5.
Oh,
So I was raised by my dad and by the family, by our family members. So I had
Mhm.
lots of folks that kind of stepped in for that motherly role, but I always knew that I was adopted. It wasn't a secret in the family from our end, of course.
Right?
Um, so I don't ever remember a time when I didn't know. I was very young and I knew.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Mine was the
again,
same. Mine was the same.
me
yeah.
too.
Yeah. So you're raised by your dad and your family steps in the absence of your mother. And
Yes.
were you an only child growing up?
I was my dad's only child, and then when I was about 5, I guess, he connected with who ultimately became my stepmother, and she had 3 kids. So
Okay.
on the one hand, I was the only child of my dad, and he and I maintained our separate dwelling. We had a place together, and his girlfriend and her children had their own place. So we had times when we were all together. And if I had to say anything, I would say that they were my siblings. Like
Hmm.
ultimately, they were my siblings. My parents ended up getting married when I was 25 years old.
Oh, wow.
So 20 years later.
Wow.
But you
It
could,
was official. Yeah.
I mean, it was this weird cross between being an only child and having those people there, having people who ultimately were my siblings.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Were they older,
So
younger?
so growing up.
I was right in the middle. So I had 2 older, and then I was in the middle, and then I had 1 younger sister. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And so growing up, you always know you're adopted and in your family,
Yes.
they're loving and accepting. And
Yes.
so were there any things you remember about growing up being adopted? Did other people know? Did you share that or was it just not a big deal?
Yeah. I mean, I did share that with friends. It wasn't, I didn't feel upset or angry or ashamed, or I think from my particular generation. I mean, I was born in 1965. I think there was this huge increase in the number of people that did that. So in the end, I had quite a number of friends who were also adopted. I think it was kind of this beginning of when it became the thing to do. If you and your husband weren't really having kids, it
Right.
kind of seemed like it was this fad, almost like it was. A lot of my friends, a number I'd say, were also adopted. So again, I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem talking to people about it. Um, and again, my family members, my grandmother, uh, my aunts stepped in, and I spent a lot of time with a lot of the different family members in the summers and different times. And they took good care of me. They loved me. I always knew that I was loved, and my dad always told me that he loved me. And so it wasn't, it just was what it was.
Right.
Did you
Yep.
And
have a
so
desire to
you
sorry, did you have a desire to know your birth parents or did you think about it when you were growing up or talk to your friends about it?
You know, um, there was a point when I started asking my dad about it because, once I got into adolescence and you're kind of looking at yourself and trying to figure out your own identity, I was very curious about the situation. I asked my dad about it, and he told me what little that he knew at that point, and I don't know how it was for the both of you, but it was something that was arranged through lawyers. And in Florida in particular, that also seemed to be a trend because they were afraid that the person may change their mind or something, so it was closed. It was a
Mhm.
closed adoption, so they really my dad told me what he knew, which in the end wasn't really helpful at all. It was such limited information. But there came a point when I found something called the Reunion Soundex Registry. And so that was one of the first places. And again, there was no computer systems or anything. You had to write away to them, and they would send you a questionnaire of sorts, I guess. And you would fill out as much information as you knew, and you would send it to them. And then the only way that you would be able to connect with your birth parent would be that your birth parent would have had to have done the same. And they would have somehow, people manually would have searched through all these documents to figure out if there was a match. And it never, for me personally, it never went anywhere. I could never get
Right.
anywhere. I just remember
How old
feeling
were you?
disconnected at the point when I did that, probably
Mhm.
Mhm.
16 or 17.
Oh, okay, so young.
Young. Yeah. I was like
Yeah.
maybe 17. It was before I graduated. I graduated high school at 17. So I was probably 16 or 17. Um, I really had no interest I really didn't consider like finding my birth father
Mhm.
because I had a dad, you
Right.
know? So I really didn't think of that. It wasn't really something I was interested in, but I remember feeling disconnected. I used to liken it to being just kind of like a balloon having, excuse me, having a string tied around your ankle and you're just kind of flying around, but you're not exactly connected to anything. So I felt a little disconnected.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like I always searched people's faces. I don't know if you guys did that, but you walk around searching people's
Definitely.
faces like, do you look kind of like me? Or you're always searching for somebody who looks like you,
Right.
to see, wow, is that, you know, are we connected somehow? So
Now, where were you born compared to where you were raised?
I was raised in Cocoa Beach,
Okay.
and um, I was born in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
But I think back in the day, they would send you away to live with
Yes.
your aunt or your grandmother.
Mhm.
The tale they would tell everybody else is, oh, she went up north to help her
Right.
grandmother or to live with her grandmother. I believe that they even had homes where you could go, where young women were
They
sent.
did.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's what I'm assuming happened because what my dad knew was it was a young woman who lived in Orlando. He thought that she maybe was a secretary there, a young woman of some kind, and that he thought that maybe my father was in the military. And of course, there were a number of bases. Not, in the end, there was a naval base, but I believe there was maybe an Army or an Air Force base
It
there.
was an Air Force base.
It was Air Force Base.
Back
So that's
then.
all he really knew.
Mhm.
So for me, then that's what made me think, well, maybe she went away
Mhm.
to have the baby because it was arranged through lawyers.
It's
Mhm.
pretty
Um,
far.
say it again.
Pretty far from where you lived.
Quite.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Quite far from where I lived. Yeah, from where I grew up, and they lived in Brevard County at that time. My adoptive mother and father.
Mhm.
So, you know, however I got there, they were living
Right.
in that area when they got me, when they brought me home.
They were living in
Brevard
Savannah?
County. They
They were
lived in
living in
Brevard County, which
but
is
she was from Orlando.
well, that's what my
You
dad said. He thought.
right? And you got
Yeah,
adopted in which is just pretty lateral,
it is.
Cocoa, but yet
Mhm.
she's what, 4 or 5 hours up in Savannah, Georgia. Okay.
So
So at
that's what it made
6
me think, like, she probably was
right,
there in town, lived in town, and went somewhere out of
right,
town for the birth or something. I mean, that's
right.
I don't know
That was
that.
pretty typical. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at 16, what do you think you wanted when you were looking for her?
You
What do
know,
you
I
think you
really
wanted?
wanted to know, I wanted to know about my genetics, you know what I mean? Like, right now, it's a toss-up.
Mhm,
Whatever I'm getting ready to get, if I'm getting Alzheimer's or if I'm getting some genetic disorder, luckily, I
mhm,
was very strong, very, good body, great health, always very strong and fit and whatever, and a lot of that was genetics, so
yeah,
I felt like the genetics were really good, but I was interested in my genetics and my heritage to figure out what am my nationality, what am I? We'd always play guess the nationality, with my friends. We'd go to the Greek fest and they'd say, "Oh, are you Greek?" And I'd say, "Do I look Greek?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, you kind of do." And I'm like, "Okay, today I'm Greek." But, you know,
yeah,
it had to do with that in some respects because I had friends that were Italian and friends that were this and that. And so here I am just flying around like the balloon with nowhere to
mhm,
be. And also I don't know, to feel connected, to see someone who looked like me, to know if I had
mhm.
other siblings, if
Okay,
there were more out
right.
there. I got a little bit afraid to do it too at that time. I was crossed between whether I should or should not because I read some books. I read up on it. And again, this was early on. You got to figure
Right.
this was late 70s, early 80s. So, I read some different stories. Sometimes they didn't want you to find them. It was a big secret and they didn't want anybody to know. They'd never told anybody. And so it blows their whole life when you show up to the scene. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Or maybe
Very
someone
much
had
so. I understand what you mean.
Mhm.
mhm.
Or maybe it was someone, maybe she had mental illness. Maybe someone they took her away because she was, struggled with mental health problems or what I mean? I became apprehensive because I thought, "Oh Lord, my life's going
Yeah,
okay. What am I getting ready to run into if I do this? And would someone reject me or, and it's interesting and we can talk about that, but that that thought carried through into the last number of years when I did find some information about
mhm.
my maternal and paternal side, and it had a lot to do with why I did not reach out to. I think I have siblings, and I didn't reach out to them.
Right. So let's come back to that because I think that's something we definitely all share in common. Plus that feeling you keep explaining about being the balloon going round and round. We keep hearing different versions of that from different people. But let's fast forward right now to because you got to all of those questions much earlier than even I did in life. Like you're 16 and 17 wondering these things and thinking it through.
Yeah.
I was 20, 30. I didn't find my biological family until I was 48. And so we've been almost in reunion for 9 years now. So fast forward because I haven't heard your updates. Fast forward
Okay.
to what happened next.
Okay. So if we fast forward to about the time, Sherry, that you found your mother, your
Mhm.
biological mother, and
Mhm.
you and I, as I said, you and I worked together. So I
Mhm.
think I had just left the position where you and I were kind of working together, and we were kind of loosely in touch. I was seeing kind of what was happening with you. So I reached out to you. You gave me some ideas about, look, you can try this site once you get the
Mhm.
DNA
Mhm.
results, which I got.
Right.
And again, I believe that at that time it wasn't as refined and particular as it is now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, when you submit that stuff, they even for those of us that did it 9 years ago,
Mhm.
they send you updates where they refine the genetic results to say
Mhm.
we thought you were actually these things, but we're
Right.
telling you now very much specifically you're more like these things. right?
Well, and they get new samples from different places around the world, and that updates all of their database. Yeah.
So there you go. So
Yeah.
I had the DNA test through ancestry.com,
Mhm.
and it hooked me. It connected me with a number of individuals.
What was your closest match at that point?
Gosh, I can't even remember. I don't remember how all that went, but and again, the closest match at that point, it gives you some random thing like second
Yep.
cousins.
Yep.
And the thing is, now what we figured out is it was my aunt.
Okay.
So, it was giving me some of these connections, and so I started reaching out to some of these people to try to figure out, are we connected? It's telling me that we share common whatever. I could never
Mhm.
put the links together. I had other people, there were other sites that you had connected me to where I just couldn't get anywhere. We couldn't figure out what the connections were.
Right.
So, I mean, I got my genetics. So that was one big thing that I was interested in. I just kept praying about it. It just didn't happen.
Right.
So, long story short, I put it aside. And a number of years later, maybe 3 or 4 years after that, I was working at a different place, started talking with this gal that told me, "Oh, guess what? My husband met his biological mother for the first time in 50 years." I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
your husband's adopted?" And she's like, "Yeah." So I told her my story, and she says, "You know what? I love doing all that research. I love doing it." She goes, "Would you like me to take a look at that stuff for you?"
Yes.
And I said, "Yeah, why not?
Yes.
Let's go at it again." So I gave her access to my Ancestry account in 7 minutes. She figured out the
Wow.
I mean, the the
Right.
the biological father. She just did
Oh,
this family
wow.
tree kinda thing, and and the family of the biological mother,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
So on the biological mother's side, this is where it gets interesting. The father, he's already passed. He had passed away by the time I figured it out. He has a
Okay.
couple children. And again, I don't wanna be calling people up and saying, "Hey, by the way, your
Mhm.
dad had a child with some chick you don't know before your parents ever," you know what I mean? Like, I didn't wanna
Mhm.
blow their image of their dad or whatnot, and I just thought, "You know, he's gone. I had a
Mhm.
dad." I let that part go. The mother thing still hung with me. So long story short, the one lady that I had contacted before 9 years ago, where we found that connection, what
Mhm.
we ultimately figured out, it took us a while to nail it down, but what we ultimately figured out is this, and hopefully I can say it so that's understandable. Her father was married prior to him marrying her mother. So he
Mhm.
had a family. He
Mhm.
had 2 children prior to connecting and having kids with her mom.
Okay.
So he had a son and they had a daughter.
Mhm.
He must have come home, I guess you could do this back in the day. The daughter was the younger of the 2. She was crying and, she was they had just come back from the hospital. I mean, she was not very old. And the story that I get it, and who knows if this is exact, but he came home and he told the wife, "I want that baby gone by the time I come home from work." So she took the baby back to the hospital where she had it and gave it away to some nurse. They have no idea where she is, what her name is, if she's alive. That's my mother. The lady is
Yeah.
she's the half sister of my mother. They have the same father and different mothers. So she was given up for adoption. She was given away.
Your biological mother was given up for adoption.
She was given away. She was given back to somebody at the hospital who took her, I guess, and raised her. So they
Okay.
said that they had looked for her, that my half
Mhm.
aunt
Mhm.
and her half brother, who's the full brother of my mom,
Mhm.
that they had tried to figure out who she was, where she was, or whatnot, to no avail. So none of us, I don't know who she is. They don't know who or where she is. So that's where that that piece of it ended.
Why did he come home and say, so she was a baby when they took her back to the hospital?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know why?
I don't know that he was altogether nice. I don't know that maybe his
Mm,
marriage was breaking up and he
gotcha.
was already
Gotcha.
hooking up with
Yep.
with my,
Yep.
I'll call her
With your
my new Aunt C. That's what I call her.
right.
New Aunt C, who I
Could it
went
have
to
been a
see
timing
her.
problem?
Say it again, please.
Could it have been a timing problem?
It's
Mm,
possible it was a timing problem. I think he was already moving on. I think
mhm.
he was moving on, and who knows if that's the exact story, but according to
Right.
her brother, um, that's what happened. And my new Aunt C, tried. They've tried to figure out who and where she is, and they cannot. They've had
Wow.
no luck. I know. So here I am again at that dead end. I did create a relationship with new Aunt C. That's what I'll call her.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she even invited me to her home. I went to see her. She still lives in Florida.
Okay.
I went to see her and met some of my cousins on that
Mhm.
side, a couple of them. Very nice visit. And sadly, all the political stuff that's happening right now,
Mhm.
we happen to be on opposite
Mm.
ends of the
Mhm.
political turmoil that we
Mhm.
find ourselves in this country. And because of that, we've stopped communicating.
Yeah. I think that's happening to a lot of families and a lot of people. Sadly.
Horrible, horrible.
Horrible.
It took
Yes.
how many years? I mean, I just had a birthday last weekend, and so
Mhm.
you got to figure. I just turned 61.
Mhm.
So the thing is, it took 50 some odd years to even find her. And
Right.
now because of all of this craziness,
Right.
um,
All of the divide and the divisiveness
she's
and
gone. Yeah, now she's gone out of it too, out of my
ugh,
life.
I am
I'm
so
so sorry.
sorry.
I mean, what are you gonna do? I just put it in God's hands and figure, when my time comes, I figure I'll get all those answers. You know what I mean? And if it's
Right.
meant to happen in the meantime, then the good
Right.
Lord's gonna lead me to it. But if not, then I can't really throw my whole life into a sadness or whatever. It just is what it is. It's my
It is.
story, you know.
Right. Right.
And I'm so blessed, and I'm loved, and I've been loved. You know what I mean? I've not
Mhm.
had a lack of love and care, and I'm very, very blessed. So
It's a very positive way of looking at that.
I don't know what else to do. I it
Right.
doesn't mean that much to me. It doesn't mean that much to me to like go and ruin other people's lives or even try to fit in with them.
Mhm. No,
You
right.
know what I mean? Because it's just
I
like,
do.
I don't have turmoil. I minimize my stress. So if somebody's gonna get bent up because they don't like me or my politics or
Right.
I'm pretty easygoing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that tells you which side of the politics I'm on.
Right.
Um, so for me, it just seems like to push it further is more hassle than it's worth for
Mhm.
me, you know.
W One of the first guests that we had on the podcast was a friend of mine named Sam, and, Sam identifies as LGBTQIA in that community, and he found people on the other side of the tracks, and while it was a shaky relationship, it ended, again, over politics. It was very sad,
Yeah.
and he had really and then found his dad, right when he did the interview with us, went back to the same routes that we had taken and found his dad, and his dad had passed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's
You know, I
mhm,
had my dad.
you
Yeah.
did. And I remember when we were first talking about us both being adopted, you saying that,
Yeah.
that you weren't lacking for anything in your life. I think
Mm-mm.
I was not lacking for anything in my life, but I always, like you said, felt disconnected.
Yep.
I never felt like any of the last names. I grew up in Mitcham. I was married to a Craig.
Yeah.
married to an Evans. Like, I never felt
That's
like
right.
I was one of them, even though I was loved by them and accepted.
Yep.
My parents raising me would be like, look at Sherri. Sherri's an artist. None of us are artists. Sherri's musical. Oh, we can't. We're not it was putting me up on a pedestal, but it was because of who I was, not because of where I came from. And in a way that was very affirming. And in another way, I always wanted to be a Mitchum, to be part
Yeah.
of the family. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
Trish, do you want to tell Vicki how you feel about the balloon theory? Trish's is different
Well,
than mine.
I had always felt like an alien dropped from space because I love my adoptive family. I do very much, but I'm never really fit in with anybody. I don't look like them. I don't act
Yep.
like them. I don't have a
Yep.
personality or traits like them. I mean, nothing. And it has been very interesting to all of a sudden find people that not just look like me, but have the same handwriting and have the same gait as I do and have the same talents and skills and interests and being a good speller and being musical and artistic and all those kind of things that were just so different. And while,
Yeah.
yes, everybody has their own personalities within a family and things that they choose to do, I was shocked at how much I was. When Sherri and I were growing up, it was like, well, how much of us is our adoptive family? How much
Yeah.
is our biological, and how much is just us? And honestly, I think it's a third, and a third.
How about that?
It,
Yeah.
it just depends on the mix that you get sometimes, but
Hmm.
it has been the best feeling, and it really changed a lot of feeling grounded and knowing that I'm from this line and here's my people above that and my people above that, and
Yeah.
yes, my grandmother was Native American, and and this one came from Ohio, and this one came from England, and it just
Yep.
was amazing to know that I felt like I had a place in the world, which surprised me because it was never like, I mean, I knew I had a family and I knew I had a place, but it's not the same as having people that look like you
That's
and
right.
all that. I would
Mhm.
not say it's enough of a detriment that I mean, I adopted. So obviously I didn't think it was that big of a detriment. But between that and knowing what my original birth name would have been,
Oh,
has been more significant than I ever dreamed it would be.
wow. Yeah.
It's surprising because I was kind of dragged into this by Sherri. We're going to do this. I'm like, oh, we are.
You are now. Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, we are. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
sure, all right, fine. And now I've met some wonderful people and built some great relationships, and I'm no longer an only child, and I,
Wow.
have different view of the world, and it's been really, for the most part, really a good find. And
Nice.
it wasn't all
Mhm.
great,
Yeah.
but um, it was certainly worth doing. Now, I do still check my Ancestry account and things like that every so
Mm.
often and go
Yeah.
on for maybe a month every year or two. Do you
Yeah.
still check and see if there's anybody that's come up or?
I do periodically. And it really is kind of the same. I mean, this gal that did it for me, she did it back how many generations, like multiple
Mhm.
generations. So, again, I think that's the thing. You don't feel grounded. Although when I got my the genetics back,
So what were
it
they,
was
Vicki?
fun.
I'm curious. Now,
So
you
yeah,
2 you are both very tall friends of mine.
yeah.
Trish, how tall are you?
5'10"?
Wow.
Vicki, how
Oh, she's
how tall?
taller than me. I think I'm shrinking. I think I'm slowly scratching over, but a little less than 5'9".
Okay.
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 So, the Ancestry says that it's 57% England and Northwestern Europe, like Wales kind of area, which I thought
Yeah.
was hysterical because I thought, I'm not British. I didn't feel like I was
Right.
predominantly British.
Right.
25% Spanish. Now, when I first did it, it
Oh,
said Iberian Peninsula. What I've come
okay.
to find out is that my grandmother, the one who the guy divorced and said, get rid of the kid,
Mhm.
her family was from Spain by way of Cuba.
Oh, okay.
Scottish, Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Iberian Peninsula thing made sense to me because of the dark hair and the
Mhm.
whatnot. I mean, that did ground me a little because ultimately that's what I'd hoped for. The
Right.
rest of it, it gets sticky. I mean,
Yeah.
I do think that I don't know how many people have come up with different experiences and stories that you all have spoken to, but I don't think it always turns out positively.
Oh,
For
no.
me, it's a
Mhm.
lot of added emotion, and for
Mhm.
me, I'm myself.
Right.
So you either like me or you don't. That's kind of the way it is. Sherry, you knew me for a while, for a few years, and you know I'm just a straight shooter and I'm just kind of an
Yeah.
idiot. I mean, I'm always cracking up and cracking jokes and being a nut, and so people either like it or they don't. So for me, I just thought, well, you know what? It might have been hard
Mhm.
because that's me trying to get to know these other people and then figuring out, do they like me? And then feeling like, oh, they don't like me.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So I just felt like it was a lot of extra emotional exchange that I just thought, ugh, it may not
Right.
turn out good. And I don't need to feel bad about myself. It took me 60 years to feel good about myself.
So that's one of the things that we said we would come back to,
Okay.
is the fear of rejection. And again, I
Yeah.
think you got to these questions a lot younger than I did. I always thought I would look, and it just wasn't the right time until it was. Um, but I had heard stories where, it wasn't necessarily a happy
Yeah.
ending,
Yeah.
and I was worried about the can of worms, but
Yeah.
my desire to find and know my story outweighed that all along.
Yeah.
And I had always
Trish,
I had always had no, I don't want to, just like you, I don't want to interfere with their life. I don't want to turn everything upside down. I don't want to
mhm,
be a burden to them. I don't know what their situation is like.
mhm.
And so it was kind of difficult to get past that. I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But
Well, so now Trish has a biological brother that she has been asked not to contact, and she didn't. She hasn't, almost 9 years later.
He himself asked you not to do that, or did someone else ask you not to do that?
my birth mother,
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
nobody
'Cause
else in the family knows about me.
right,
And I have family less than 30 minutes from where I live.
right.
So she told you about all of them, but then said, please don't contact any of them?
Well, they're in
Mhm,
they're in my yeah. They
mhm,
showed up. That's how one of the ways I found her. They showed up in my DNA.
mhm.
Bunches and bunches of them.
She's
Going
given
Right.
way
them
back.
she gave them all away?
No, no, no. Bunches of like years back. There's,
Oh.
like if you go to find a grave, you can find a lot of burial plots and things like that are
Oh.
here. So that was kind of unusual, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens to a lot of people, that you're
Right.
kind of shocked at how close. I mean, look at Sherry. She
I
lived in the same
know.
town as her birth mother for 20 something years.
Right.
And you had the
And have
picture.
run in
Didn't you have a picture of her, like, with your son when he was a little
yeah,
boy?
I keep it right here.
Yeah, I
11
remember.
years 11 years before I found her, she was face
That's
painting my son's
crazy.
face.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Isn't it crazy? I'm thinking because I lived in Orlando 25
Mhm,
years.
mhm.
So I'm thinking, I probably
Yeah. And
ran into her.
I've bumped into her now that we know each other, so many times, and my siblings,
Mm,
because I'm the oldest of 10. Um,
that's nuts.
I it
10
is. So
kids. She had 10 kids?
no, no, no. So there's 8. Okay, I'm 10. There's 7 on her side and 2 on my biological dad's side.
Okay.
So when I found my biological father,
Oh my
we
gosh.
emailed back and forth for like a year and a half, and he asked me not to contact his daughters, my sisters, because they had never
Oh. Yeah, see?
Mhm,
Said
mhm.
he never said anything to anybody.
Of
Yeah,
course.
or his wife. But I did anyway
Oh,
because, well,
She's
I don't
Sherri.
know. She's Sherri.
Yeah.
I and
and
I guess I hopefully will have people listening who will identify, with each one of us, that is
yeah.
sitting here sharing our thoughts and feelings.
Wow.
I just was stuck on the fact that I didn't ask to be here. And
Ooh,
um the children of these two people in theory will outlive them, and that these are relationships that I'm entitled to. And I don't generally go through life thinking I'm entitled to things, but family ties are very important to me. And one sister immediately replied, and we have had a very close relationship. She's on an earlier episode, and the other sister did not. And
okay.
so, yeah, once she did not, that's fine. I tried. I'm
Mhm.
not going to stalk or harass somebody, but I definitely wanted them to know, here I am, if you want a relationship.
Mm.
Um, and then since then, my father passed away, and then we found out he
Remember.
had a daughter from before his marriage to my mother that nobody knew about.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that
Which we
was a
need to do a
shakeup.
book update about.
I'm
But then,
still trying how to figure out how to say that.
yeah. Well, one of the
Yeah.
things why I keep going back every now and again and checking is I have a half sister on my dad's side that nobody knew existed. And she found me, which was a really interesting experience because we were always the ones reaching out and
And
being so
finding.
worried and finding and worried, oh, what are they going to think?
Uh-huh.
Well, being
Yeah.
on the other side of, oh, what do they want? And it's like, it's such a natural reaction. I don't want people to be freaked out by it because even though we searched and we're like, we don't want anything. We just, whatever you're willing to do, whether it's, nothing or if it's just, you know, medical information or,
Right.
all the way to, well, what Sherri got is a whole new family.
Yeah.
And it's, it's really
Hmm.
different. I mean, everybody kind of seems to have a little bit of a different story, but
Yes.
we see that so many people have a lot of the same feelings and instances and the fears of how to contact and do
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
contact, do you keep your DNA open? Well, I'm glad that I did. And I'm glad that I kept looking or I'd have never known.
Mhm.
And I've met her and her family twice. And we have decided after 2 years of meeting over the end of the year holidays that we'll make that a tradition. And my daughter's so happy to have cousins and,
Wow.
new cousins that are younger than her. And they get along wonderfully. And
Hmm.
well, it's not the same as growing up together.
Right.
I've been shocked at how our relationship just clicked. And
Mhm.
Hmm.
it was just instant acceptance. And it's been
Hmm.
really, really cool. I mean, I've never had an experience like that. And
I'd be
there's just
interested if someone would reach out, you know what I mean? Like, that would be interesting,
Mhm.
you know? It'd
it's
be
Mhm.
really
nice,
good.
for me not to be the one that's out here
Right.
swinging around for somebody else to,
Right.
and I would think that, like, well, were you just looking for your, like, DNA just to figure out you're, like, mostly from England and maybe from Spain and, a little bit from this or that? Is that all you wanted? Or, what are
Right.
what are they out there doing? Because I definitely have 2 half siblings. If this stuff is accurate
Mhm.
and
It
my biological father was who it indicates that he was,
Mhm.
then I have 2 half siblings.
Right.
What
Why,
we
they're
always say
not
is
reaching out.
all it's going to take, and it gets bigger and bigger and more popular, and you've got the databases that cross, and the more people that are in, the more people are likely. But if you find a second cousin, you can pretty much be found. I mean, it is amazing. And this is one of the things Sherri and I wrote the book for. It is amazing the amount of information that you can find online now,
Mhm.
whether it's through obituaries or school yearbooks or
Right.
wedding announcements or
Mhm.
census, DNA. There's an enormous,
Yearbooks. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if you can find somebody, and so many people are like, oh,
Yeah.
this is fun. Let's do this at Christmas. Oh, it's Easter. Let's do this as a
Mhm.
family. Uh,
Surprise.
yeah.
I don't
Like,
know. Again, they haven't reached out to me. That's what I'd say.
Right.
They
I
have the
wouldn't
same
give up hope.
information I do. You know what I
Right.
mean? My name's gonna show up in all that little link right there. And so the thing is,
So
nobody's reaching out to me.
Yeah.
so
Just saying.
well,
Yet.
right.
You never
I
know.
I would say
Mm,
though, a large part of what our book was about was not simply just finding, but trying to make relationships
mhm.
with people. The relationships don't automatically just happen because of the DNA.
Right.
And it was very emotional.
I
And
betcha.
at times it is stressful.
Yeah.
And there was rejection, I felt like,
Yeah.
from my biological dad. He never asked to have a phone call or asked to meet in person
Oh.
I mean, the initial reaction was, "Oh my god, I'm glad to hear, you've grown up and you were taken care of and everything turned out great, but please don't contact anybody." you know. So, while it was
Wow.
welcoming initially, it was
Mm.
also stay where you're at and I'm going to stay over here and
Mhm.
so I
Hmm.
think my whole life I was pretty I know I don't give off the appearance of it, but I felt rejected at birth, and that
Mhm.
stuck with me, and I gave off a tougher appearance than I think what I actually had, but once I found my biologicals, I threw caution to the wind on everything and really do not care about what anybody thinks anymore. But that was just my process. I don't
Sure.
think the process has to be the same for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well,
So tell us
yeah, I
what
don't know
you
what to
did find on your dad's side. So the
I
same person found what did she find on your dad's side?
she found his name,
Mhm.
um, and, his if you when they do the family tree, you can see who are they married to, who are
Mhm.
their children, who were their parents. So
Mhm.
it kind of did the family tree on both sides,
Right.
so that's what I found out about him and that he had passed. He was deceased,
Mhm.
um, and that he lived in Florida. He
Okay.
he he lived, I wanna say, Jacksonville-ish area.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I will say that I found that my grandfather, like my biological mother's father, the one that
Mhm.
said, "You've gotta get rid of this baby,"
Mhm.
he, was a singer and an artist as well. He was a singer, and, I sing
Mhm.
and am an artist, a photographer and an artist. So and we look similar. We actually look similar. He has blue eyes. He has had big blue eyes, and I have blue eyes.
Mhm.
So the pictures that I have of him, um, my friends that have seen it said, "Yeah, you definitely you look like him."
Mhm.
Now, I don't know that his hair was quite as dark as mine, so I'm guessing that came from the grandmother, from the Spain
Mhm.
kinda stuff, but, I hate to say I've given up on it. I I guess I got the DNA. The rest
Mhm.
of it's a toss-up. If I'm gonna get some genetic something or other that they're predisposed to, then it's gonna be a mystery.
Right.
Until it hits me, it's a mystery. Um, I've just kinda given up on it. I never felt angry with about it at all or put out or upset that my mother and again, I had a dad, so I'm really thinking
Mhm.
about the mother piece of it for me personally. I just thought, "You know what? She coulda had an abortion. She could have been in some trailer in the backwoods," because back then, that's where those things were happening, back in the middle of nowhere in the shack, out in
Right.
the boondocks somewhere. So she gave me a chance. I always just kind of felt like, you know what, for some reason, she
Mhm.
felt like she wasn't going to do a good job of it, or she felt like someone else was going to give me a better
Right.
shake. Luckily, praise God, for me, I wasn't abused, I wasn't neglected, I was not mistreated. I
Yeah.
was with a good and decent family. Um, Perhaps if my life had been horrible, I would have had different feelings about the
Mhm.
matter. But I had that good life that hopefully she wanted me to have. I was able to go to college. I didn't want for anything. I knew I was loved. And I knew that there was a tribe of people around me who loved me
Mhm.
and helped to look after me. Um, so I just, again, at a certain point, I just put it in God's hands and just said, well, I tried. I
Mhm.
tried, and then when you get down to the point where she's gone and she's adopted too, and nobody knows who or where she is, I just thought,
Right.
all right then, you know, I gave
Right.
it a shot. I gave it a good Girl Scouty try, and this is where I've landed. So, and she never reached out. So maybe
Right.
she's passed away. I mean, who even knows?
Who
I
knows?
used to try to convince myself, well, maybe she's passed away. That's why
Well, and
she
I
Mhm.
think
never
with that era
did.
too, there was all the secrecy and the silence and the shame,
Shame.
all that kind of stuff, to where they were told they were never to contact us. We were never to
Yeah,
contact them.
Mhm.
yeah.
You'll
Mhm.
ruin their life. And we've heard all kinds of stuff.
Well, they
And
Mhm.
couldn't. The records were sealed. Like from
Right.
the generation that
those were two.
they were sealed.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, they're able to open those now, only if you have some medical problem or something. Will
I
they
think you
allow you
have
to
to get
open
an
them?
attorney and go before a judge, and then the other party still has to be open to communication.
And
You
I
know
So,
think it
what?
depends on the state.
I'm not
Some
doing it.
states have
yeah, you're probably
made it
right.
a right to have your original birth certificates, and some states have not. So I think it just
I've tried, and the birth certificate I have has my adoptive parents' name on it.
Right. Mine does too.
oh yeah, mine does too. So thing, oh, birth
Yeah.
parents, yeah, mine does too. One of the things that always freaked me out was, like, when I was in college, I had some health issues that we couldn't figure out. And I thought, well, maybe I'll contact, birth family and see if there's somebody there that knows, and has had the same thing, and they're looking down a completely different direction than we're looking down. Maybe I could get some help. But it was so closed and it was so expensive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just
Right.
couldn't afford it. And I'm very torn in that. Yes, I do understand a closed adoption, and those things are signed, but I also understand that I didn't agree to any of that.
Right.
And
Right.
it always drove me crazy that here's this person that has nothing to do with me. Just because they have a job, they can look at my file folder and see who my mother was, see who my father was, their information, their social security numbers, that whatever information that they had on them that was real information, they were allowed to have it.
Right.
And it wasn't any of their information. And I'm like, I don't know, something just seems fundamentally wrong about that as well. So I'm really torn between the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think I've just I hate to say it, I've let it go, and I've learned to live with
I think
the
that's
feeling
okay though.
disappointed.
Yeah.
I do feel a little disappointed. I had
Mm.
hoped, that's why I
Mhm.
went through the whole process.
Mhm.
I'm certainly disappointed that because of, the political climate,
Yes.
that
That's hard.
it threw a wrench in.
Yes.
Although I will say, I did get a text from New Aunt C
Mhm.
for Christmas,
Okay.
just brief, and I did text her back, of course, and just saying I just feel so sad again that it took us so long to
Mhm.
connect, and with all that's happening in our country, that that this is what's happened.
Mhm.
It's not that we dislike each other. I care about her, and she really cared, um, and wanted to find my birth mother. She was interested. It's part of her family as well.
Now, does
So I
she
don't
have
think
contact with your biological uncle?
she does. And I want to say the last that she and I spoke on it, he has Alzheimer's, but
Mm.
he wasn't interested in it. In fact, I think he has a number of kids coming out of the woodwork himself
Mm.
that
Oh,
have been reaching out to say, I think you're my dad.
Yeah.
Our DNA matches. And so he wouldn't have anything to do with any of the however many people were reaching out of the woodwork to see him. So he
Right.
really didn't, he wasn't interested in that.
Right.
In connecting with me. And then about, now I'm sure he probably couldn't put it together. It's a little
Right.
sordid, you know what I mean? If I was to say,
Yeah.
"Remember the sister they gave away?" Well, guess what? She had one and gave it away too. So,
Yeah.
if he truly has Alzheimer's, then I don't even know that he could remember what any of that.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I think she does keep in touch with him. It's her half brother.
Mhm.
And she's got they had a lot of kids back in the day.
Yeah. Right. They did.
I think I've just put it by the wayside. I try to live in the moment. Like I said, I don't remember the exact dates. You said 9 years. So I'm going to say,
Mhm.
okay, it was about 9 years when I really started the part that gave me any success whatsoever. Took
Right.
a few years,
Right.
but I'm learning to live with the disappointment. You know what I mean? It's been a
Mhm.
lifetime of feeling disappointed and disconnected. Um, my younger sister has passed, my older sister passed, um, and so, feeling disconnected. My parents are gone, you know what I mean? Like, so I really
I
am
do.
kind of on my own.
Mhm.
So I've grown into my disconnection, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
Like
It's
there
familiar. Right.
I'm disconnected, you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
have them anymore. That, the parents left, the grandparents, they're gone. So the thing is that anything that even remotely held me down, that even
Mhm.
remotely felt like it was keeping me connected to something
Mhm.
is gone.
Right.
Um, so
well, Vicki,
I
if they
just be myself. I'm just myself. You know what I mean? Here I am out in the world on my own.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
I
Yeah.
was going to say if somebody does eventually contact you or pop up on your accounts, would you
Yeah.
please give us a holler and let
Mhm.
us know? We'd
I
be really
will.
interested in
I
following
will,
with
yeah.
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
things
Yeah.
go.
sure. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
keep you updated if anything
Yeah.
comes about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be an interesting development for sure.
Right. I think it's interesting to see the 3 of us sitting here and to listen every week, to all of these stories that have this one thing in common, and yet every story is so different. Every experience is so different.
It's true.
Yeah.
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 I
Yeah.
appreciate you letting me talk about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm comfortable talking about it. It is
Mhm.
my life. It is what it is. And one day
Right.
I'll get all the answers. One day I feel sure that,
It'll all
that
come together.
I
Yeah.
believe so, that the answers will come in this life or the next, and that I'm sure there's some good reason,
Yes.
whatever lesson it is that I'm here
Yes.
to learn, whatever lessons, then this is the way that life had to be in order for me to grow and develop in the way that my
Mhm.
spirit needed to.
I do believe firmly in that. I do.
I think
I
so.
do. Well,
Yeah,
Vicki, thank you for sharing with us.
of
This has
course.
been interesting.
Yeah, it has. Thanks. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me share.
Thanks. And
Okay.
again, let us know if something else turns up in your accounts. And I wish you the best of luck with it.
I
Yes.
appreciate that, Trish. Thank you so much.
All
Yes.
right.
Thank you. Okay, Trish.
Well, that was really interesting.
Very interesting. And that's a wrap. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Found with Trish and Sherri.